Welcome to Cyber Insecurity, brought to you by INE. I'm Matt Kreischer, content specialist at INE, and as always, I'm joined by Neil Bridges and Jeff Goals. Neil is a cybersecurity veteran, both literally and figuratively. He started in cyber command at the U.S. Air Force and has since worked with Fortune 100 companies and PricewaterhouseCoopers. He's currently consulting through his company, Root Access Protection. Jeff is a named account manager with VMware Carbon Black. He has more than 30 years experience in the technology and cybersecurity sectors, helping clients around the world achieve first-class security protocols. Gentlemen, welcome to the show as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start with Tesla. Tesla's been all over cybersecurity news lately after the company announced an attempted malware infiltration by a Russian national. To me, the most interesting part of this is the fact that a Tesla employee turned down a $1 million bribe to install the malware onto corporate machines. This kind of gets into a larger discussion about inside employees and how they play into a company's threat model. Neil, this particular bribe was not effective, but what happens when a cyber criminal approaches and convinces the right employee to take the money and install malware?
Well, before I answer that, I do want to ask you a question because I know you've got pretty strong views on this. Does this fall into your definition of Elon Musk's innovative strategy and capabilities here?
Well, it's about as innovative as anything else Elon Musk hasn't done. So, I mean,
all right,
man, you baited him and he just didn't take it. Neil.
I can see he's trying. He's got the look on his face though, like he wants to take it.
I do want to have a strong. I do have a strong opinion on this, but if you were listening and you would like to know my opinion, you'll have to reach out individually.
No, I think insider threat is a good way to put this, and I think that this is what's interesting about this, right? Is when you look at the factory that they were going to target in Nevada, they picked an employee that clearly has some strong moral and ethical, beliefs that what they were doing was the right thing in reporting this to Tesla leadership, which does kind of speak to what I would hope to be the culture, of security inside of Tesla and inside that company. But I think it's just as easily that they could have picked the one person who, could have been outed or wronged or mistreated by a particular employee. And I do think we've seen, if I recall correctly, this particular threat actor was successful in the CWT ransomware incident, whereby they actually did successfully con an employee and give them some money to install some ransomware, which ultimately led to, I think, like $3 or $4 million ransom that was paid by CWT. I think this is going to be one of those interesting stories that we're able to continue to look at and be like, here's an example of somebody physically walking up to an employee and saying, I will literally give you $1 million, which is probably more than this factory guy was making, to go do bad stuff, for what potentially could have been a 5X or a 6X return to that cyber criminal. This is some very James Bondy cloak and daggery stuff, and I want to read more about it.
Yeah, I certainly think that from an insider threat perspective, not only is this a genius way of getting around the, hey, how do I actually get malware on a machine? Because it's not a trackable clicking kind of thing through phishing. And I know they can hide their tracks and whatnot. But this could be like a brand new evolution of insider threat where you've got a bad actor who, gets an employee to not do anything himself, but find the weak link in the organization who would click on anything or who would be willing to do more unscrupulous things, or even a temporary employee or a contractor that's harder to track down, right? So I think this is a brand new kind of insider threat that you don't think so, Neil?
No, it's actually not brand new. I did this on a pen test about 4 years ago. I was doing a pen test for one of those collection agencies, and it's a nondescript building, no walls, no windows, no walls.
Did you offer the Tesla employee $1 million?
No, I did not.
Was that you?
I did not offer to the test employee. Instead, I went to this credit collection company and I offered an employee $100 to take my thumb drive. And he actually took my thumb drive into this credit collection agency office and plugged their thumb drive in. And everybody thought I was
way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did this on a pen test and it worked on a pen test. That's why this is such so personal to me to see this happen, because it's like I actually pen tested this as
That's hilarious.
as a threat model for a company.
Well, but I think this is going to be seen more and more. I mean, this is a highly effective way to get things in. I'm just I'm actually surprised that he offered $1 million.
You think this? What if both of you are right? What if it isn't necessarily a new concept, but the newness of it is we see more high value targets being approached with even more money than, say, just $100 for.
Honestly, I almost think that it would have been more effective if he would have offered him $100, because the guy would have been like, "Oh yeah, it clearly can't be that big of a deal."
That is a good point.
Like $1 million. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get $1 million for this. That means I could probably go to prison for this. And I'm guessing that would trigger his thought.
Oh god, that's interesting. We need a psychologist.
That is really interesting. Yeah,
we need a psychologist.
We need a lawyer and a psychologist on this show now.
I have a lawyer coming on the show.
Awesome.
But no, because I think that is a valid point. Because my first thought was how do you launder $1 million? Maybe that probably isn't the really good thought that I should have had first. But
that's very insightful about you.
You and Walter White asking those questions.
It is, because you do have to ask yourself. It's like, okay, how exactly are you going to take possession of $1 million and be completely okay with that as an employee? You've got two thoughts. Do I turn this in because I know I'm going to go to jail, or do I try to figure out how to launder $1 million? I know that's not where you wanted to go.
Those are your first two thoughts, huh? Those are the first two thoughts.
Okay,
awesome.
Well, to get us slightly back on track, I wanted to kind of breach a subject that you spoke about when we were prepping for this call, Neil, is that you didn't believe that there was a way to account for this kind of insider bribery into your threat plans.
I do still stand by that, because I think that this is cultural. I think that this is, I think that this relies on, if you take when you look at the satellite image of that factory, there's probably 3,000 people that work in that factory, right? You have to take into account the individual personalities of 3,000 individual people in that plant and figure out how you're going to appeal to them on an existential level to make them dutifully, loyal to you, so that $1 million doesn't seem like a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And I think when you look at the time and the effort, and we've talked about this on the show, right? The time, the effort, and the money that you have to allocate towards a cybersecurity program, this feels like a threat model that you can't accurately invest in and measure the ROI from an effectivity perspective.
Yeah, I don't know how you would tie this to an ROI model for sure.
Yeah.
This is like soft dollars of soft dollars.
Soft dollars of soft dollars that you won't actually ever know until somebody tries to offer an employee $1 million.
Right.
And it's also a thing where it also brings the issue that cybersecurity is in itself kind of siloed within this IT sector of every company or vertical of every company. And really what you're dealing with cybersecurity is you're dealing with HR, because you, like Jeff said earlier, you don't know who's easily clicking on every single link they have. Like Neil said, you don't know who's
Neil,
actually...
you've got a cybersecurity program. Who are the bad actors in the company you're currently at? Who they are, don't you? My gosh, Jimmy will not stop clicking on stuff. We've sent him through training 17 times. Every company has them.
I don't know about my current company, and I would never.
Everyone at your current company is brilliant and well trained, and everyone follows the rules, I'm sure.
But I will say that if you're not tracking your constant clickers, then I think that you're either in denial or.
I like that you've come up with the alliteration for your bad actors. My constant clickers.
It's the only way to measure it. You measure malware threats based on detections. You measure idiots based on clicking.
Constant clicking.
Constantly clicking. But I mean, so then let's take that. You got malware, measured in malware. You got idiots measured on clicking. How do you measure people standing outside of the smoke pit getting offered $1 million to go plant a malware infested USB drive?
Like, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. And in fact, I think there's a decent chance that half these people would take $100 and do just that, or take $50 and take 20 flash drives and strategically just drop them throughout the organization to see who will pick one up and put one in a PC.
That's why I continue to test. Like, I think that, I mean, you could...
I'm probably giving people creative ideas of how to mess with companies now.
Pen testers have been doing...
Hey, I'm going to save you $1 million, dude. You know, it just takes 200.
Pen testers have been doing that for years. We know it works.
Well, before we call too many people idiots or get anybody in Neil's current company in trouble, let's move on to Apple. So due to the rising rates of adware and ransomware on Mac OS devices, Apple began vetting and notarizing all applications through their App Store. However, it doesn't appear as if the process has been effective as Apple engineers would like. After 7 months of notarization, researchers are finding notarized applications infect with Slayer adware, which was found in 1 in 10 Mac OS devices. I don't want to pick on Apple too much here because I think this is an issue no matter what app store you're using. So, Jeff, how do you think app stores are handling malware infections within their applications right now?
Well, I know I've talked to Neil about this a long time ago. Of hey, if you are current on your Mac OS, you're probably safer than any other device that you could have. But the interesting thing is, whether it's Google or Apple or whoever, they all are kind of taking on the responsibility of, hey, these apps are good. I'm giving them a thumbs up. And, if you go out and download this, you should feel comfortable that it's safe because we only have safe apps on our app store. I think they're opening themselves up to huge liabilities personally.
I mean, but it's a was a self-eating snake or whatever you call it. I mean, it's like you can't police every single solitary app, and when you do put overly restrictive permissions on the apps that you allow in the App Store, then it takes more time, for the development cycle for folks to develop apps and get them up on the
So you think that it's overly restrictive to not allow people to have malware embedded in their apps?
Well, I can't just blatantly agree with you. I can't just blatantly agree with you, so I have to pick some side of this argument.
That's fair. I'm okay with that.
So since you are,
I'm just glad I chose the winning side of the argument that you're flustered at this point. This is good.
Damn it! Now I got to choose. Now I got to try to defend this one. I mean,
I want to point out that we've made it through 9 episodes, and this is the first time Neil has actually cussed. All it took was agreeing with Jeff.
It's shocking, actually. It happens. Yeah. He has not agreed with me once on the stream,
and I would rather cuss on stream than actually agree with it this time too. I mean, I got nothing.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you talk next.
No, I can't. Look, okay. I do. There is a malware problem, period, and I think that to think that the app stores are any different from getting it in phishing or getting it out on the internet is completely bonkers. But what I also think is odd is that, I don't necessarily think that Apple and Google, either one of them, do a very good job of policing their stores, and I definitely think Google is far and away worse at it than Apple ever could be. And I don't say that as a knock against Google. It's just that the whole nature behind the open source mentality that Google Play has. I mean, if you've ever gone through the development process for Apple, you have to pay at least the time I was doing it, was like $300 for a developer, license, and then you have to go through this ridiculous process to get your code up on the Apple Store. And then if you want to take payments, and think the whole thing that Epic just got in charge with is like it's a 30% fee, like if you want to take any payments through your app. And so allegedly that 30% or that 30% fee is there to make the platform easy and usable and safe for everybody that's on there. But I mean, there's no SLAs behind, how many pieces of software are going to go up there that are code free. It does, we obviously don't see Apple taking into consideration the lack of privacy, concerns that they have for the apps that are going up on their app store. So we're just going to let Facebook, TikTok, and everybody else take away all the private information. So, I think that's why I think it's more of that self-eating snake, where it's like, yeah, we want the money. Yeah, we want the revenue. Yeah, we'll try to notionally say that we're going to block some malware and things like that. But if it's privacy related, or if they do a good job of evading some of our detection mechanisms, which they have out there, if they're doing a lot of the ad campaigns and whatnot, then we'll let them up on the app store without a whole lot of justification. So I think I think it's more Trojan horsey whenever you hear about Apple saying, "Oh, we've cracked down on malware," because that probably accounts for some of the edge cases and not the majority of the apps that are on the App Store.
So this brings up an interesting question, though. You just mentioned privacy. Who would pay a GDPR fine if privacy is breached? Is it Apple, or is it the application owner?
Well, I think I think since the application owner is the one who owns the code base, then they're the ones who ultimately own the data privacy rights. Remember, Apple's just acting as a platform on here. And so to that end, Apple has to make the decision for itself about what it is and isn't going to allow on its platform. And they're saying that they're allowing apps that do not care about your privacy or have overly invasive privacy restrictions on their platform. But if you're good enough to hide your malware, we're okay letting that go too. It's only if you're just like really, really obvious about, the fact that you're malware, that we're going to really stomp that down and take the opportunity to say that we shut down malware on our platform. So
as a security practitioner, a CISO is listening to this and he, texts you after the show, says, "Hey, so what do you do about it? How do you respond?" I mean, I think you have to have a mobile device management plan, and if you're gonna adhere to BYOD, then I think if you're not doing overly restrictive containerization in your mobile device management plan, then I think you're just asking for, any type of issue on mobile phones. I think that you have to, if you're a CISO who's contending with mobile devices, you have to decide what role you want to play in the use of those mobile devices in your organization. Do you want to allow Jeff to bring your personal cell phone into the organization and call your wife on the same phone that you look at highly sensitive pricing information? And if so, then you better be using like the most overly restrictive MDM policies that are humanly possible on that device, whether it's Intune or Iron Mail or insert whatever company X here you want to insert into. If you're buying a corporate phone for your employees, then why the hell are you letting damn, it's twice on one stream. Why the heck are you letting your employees install apps from the App Store? Why haven't you said these apps are whitelisted and everything else is blacklisted? It's one of those things where it's the same problem we have with a PC. We don't treat the mobile device that we give employees with the same level of restrictions that we treat the PC or we allow them the same leniency that we allow them with a corporate device, and thus doubling or tripling in some cases our attack footprint. Well, don't you think that, especially with the work from home right now, and I personally don't think that a lot of companies are going to go back anywhere near where they were before from the work from the office environment. So I think from a work from home perspective, I think every CISO out there is dealing with mobile devices and user defined devices. I think they are too, and I think if they haven't already pooped their britches, then they're probably on the cusp of doing it, where they realize that their failure to adequately plan for either a BYOD or a corporate managed mobile solution, I think it's catching up with them in a COVID time period. I think, and this goes back to something, Jeff, I think you and I said on a couple streams ago, is that COVID, if anything, is having a whole lot of people go, holy cow, all these things that I thought I had years and years and years to design and implement from a control perspective is now coming to bite them in the tail, because they're being thrust to account for that. And I think BYOD and mobile devices is a perfect example of that. Yeah, it certainly is busting everyone's budget for sure right now, because they have 5 projects that they thought could take 4 years to implement. And, oh, by the way, they all have to be done by October.
Right. And I think, I know that we started this conversation talking about, malware inside of the App Store. But I think that, if you were to take a PC inside of a corporate environment, they've locked down the Windows Store on most Windows 10 machines and almost every Fortune 100 company that's out there. They've done that because they don't want you downloading stuff from the Windows Store. But yet you can hand an employee a mobile phone and you don't stop them from installing anything from the App Store. Why is that any different?
So let me ask you this, though. In your experience, have the protocols around BYOD gotten better in the past few years, or are we still kind of in the same place where we were, say, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Jeff, I was
just going to say, from a management perspective, I think it's gotten way better. From a security perspective, I think we're in the same boat, if not worse.
I think it's hard because, we want users to feel comfortable using IT. We this may be small unpopular opinion, but we get so hung up on user experience in the IT space that when we go to give somebody a mobile device, we're like, well, what's their user experience when they have their mobile device at home? Well, it's so that they can do whatever they want, go wherever they want, install whatever they want, on a mobile device. And so we're like, okay, well, let's let them do that.
It's actually so that they can get more productivity out of them and they can continue working at 9:47 at night.
Well, but I disagree that increasing the user experience means that a worker will work till 9:47 at night. I don't necessarily think that that's it at all. I think when you create a working culture, and again, I'm not a psychologist, didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and don't play one on TV, but I think when you encourage a better working culture, you can still get that level of productivity out of an employee. I mean, you can look at folks like myself or yourself, Jeff, who we know how to get our work done and be safe on our own personal laptops, but you could take Secretary X or finance person X or payroll person X who doesn't have their own personal MacBook and doesn't need their can do everything that they need to do on their corporate device. They're perfectly fine using that corporate device to do whatever it is that they need to. They don't need to surf Facebook on that same corporate device when they're sitting at home and they've got their iPad and they can surf Facebook on their iPad. So I don't think I don't think those two things are necessarily related to each other, and that's why I also don't think that if you're in a position to where you're given a mobile device by your company, you're given that mobile device so that you can be accessible by that company, not so you can check your Facebook on it. And I think that's the cultural difference that we're running into. Is they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna give you an iPhone to do your business work. Well, can I put my Facebook on there?
No.
Yeah, fine. Go ahead. We don't really care. And next thing you know, you've got overly invasive apps with privacy issues that are sharing your corporate payroll spreadsheet out on Facebook the next time you go play that video game.
I don't know any security issues that Facebook has ever had, so I don't know what you're talking about.
None. They're practically just perfect.
They are. I mean, can't you see how serious they take their responsibility in the social media space?
Well, moving from one possibly autocratic regime to another, I'd like to move to North Korea now. From
Facebook to North Korea. Wow. That was a heck of a transition, Matt. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Holy cow.
I am particularly proud of myself for that one. The U.S. government is warning banks and financial institutions of an ongoing threat from the North Koreans to hack ATMs to potentially steal money. This would appear to be another action in a cybersecurity pattern by the North Koreans to defy sanctions by hacking their way to money from Western businesses. Jeff, I know that we're talking about banks today, but how worried should U.S. companies be about the amount of theft-driven hacks to private industry from the North Korean government?
I think North Korea is going to do whatever they possibly can to make money in any way they possibly can. So, I mean, this article could have been written 3 years ago or yesterday. It's the same activity. And honestly, a lot of ATMs, for instance, we do a lot of work with ATMs with what I do, just because we have an entire solution built around this idea of why would I ever let things operate that I don't know if they're good or bad. keep a list of the good stuff, and nothing else can. So, gas pumps and ATMs, that kind of thing, were heavily deployed in that environment. But with that said, I think you have to specialize how you treat some of these corporate assets. And we have tried to solve every possible security problem with firewall and AV for the last 40 years. And that's an approach that was busted 2 years after it came out, and we've been fighting that direction ever since.
I think back to Matt's original question.
Oh, come on!
We all know that my question is just a jumping off point, anyways.
Matt's just trying to get you to swear again, Neil.
Yeah, but see, I don't like the direction that Jeff jumped. I want to jump. I want to push Jeff into this direction.
That's fine. Go. Let's go.
Let's go. Like that. We got Jeff. Let's go. Look, I mean, people warning other people about North Korea is no shocker. I mean, I say this with the very, very, very most modicum of respect for North Korea. They have grown a lot from, barely being able to use Metasploit to hack, a couple of, really easy targets in Europe, almost 5 to 10 years ago to, pulling off a $2 billion heist in Bangladesh and attacking crypto exchanges and, things that they're doing now. But all their motivation is, when you look at their TTPs and the things that they've got going on, right? They're just trying to find ways to evade sanctions. That's, they're a broke regime. The people are dying of hunger and things like that. And, a lot of this stuff.
So they steal from Bangladesh. That is crazy.
They attempted to steal $2 billion from the Central Bank of Bangladesh through SWIFT systems. I
think that's all Bangladesh has.
It's an international bank. The money goes.
I know. I'm kidding.
They actually almost got away with it if it hadn't been for, I think, one person who happened to be checking the only fax machine still in existence in one of the banks in New York that was transferring some of the money through the SWIFT system. But I think that's so. So when we talk about North Korea, unless you're a financial services company, I don't think that North Korea should really be on your threat radar, personally.
Well, I do wonder, though, as their capabilities grow and as the U.S. government keeps warning banks about these attacks, whether or not North Korea is going to get more creative, I guess, in the way that they're stealing from Western companies.
I mean, I think every company will try to get more creative, and I think as we see interesting things around the crypto market get more mature. We just saw literally yesterday, some organization talked about being able to de-anonymize, Monero, which was the last of the true real privacy coins out there. I think as the cryptocurrency continues to expand, you may see North Korea get more creative in terms of how they get money. I mean, you saw that after the Twitter hack, allegedly Coinbase was able to stop almost $400,000 of the fraudulent transactions from the Twitter hack from going into different crypto wallets. And so I think you'll see creativity in that realm, but I think you really ultimately have to look at it in the sense of, can you move money from account to the North Koreans? And if that's your threat model, I think that's where you need to really be focused on the North Koreans. But I think, consumer packaged goods, I think, healthcare companies, I think, energy companies and things like that. I think they're still a long way away from having to have North Korea on their threat radar, personally.
Well, our last topic doesn't really have. We're gonna move away from our normal format because there's no real current event that we're really talking about. But I was driving up to the Northeast a couple weeks ago, and when I got through Washington D.C. and New York City, I did get 5G on my phone for the first time ever. Now, obviously, 5G has been in every conspiracy theory newsletter for the entirety of 2020. But I'm wondering, as 5G grows and it increases speeds for almost every device, Guys, what kind of cybersecurity implications are we looking at early on in the 5G process right now?
So I'm going to let the conspiracy theorist and Jeff go first.
Really? Really?
Ideas he's got. Like I want to know how bad Jeff thinks the world's going to end now that 5G's out there.
You've got 17 minutes, and then it's like the world is ending. No, I am not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to this. No, and here's the reality: 5G is based on the same spectrums that 3G and 4G and television have been transmitting on for decades. It's like it is not a brand new set of frequencies. There are some additional microwaves that 5G has access to, but the big thing with 5G is the fact that it consolidates a lot more wider banded frequency ranges than 4G and 3G were able to do, right? So that's where you're getting the bandwidth from. And Matt, I'd be interested to see what the throughput on your 5G connection was, because right now there's not a whole lot of higher bandwidth 5G. A lot is still in the low bandwidth environment that still is comparable to what 4G was doing. It's not until we start getting into the high category of 5G that you're really going to see that jump, and it will be big. But that's not where the security concern comes from. In my opinion.
Then why do you think the world is ending around 5G?
Man, that's a loaded question. Thank you, Jeff. The only reason I thought we should talk about this is because there's been a lot of discussion around China and manufacturing of 5G equipment. And I think there is a potential of security backdoors being built into the software and the hardware and the antennas that China is making. And, the UK doesn't think that it's a big security concern. And maybe that's the case for them because they've been able to quarantine off certain pieces of it and say, okay, well, you're only going to have access to, this small section of the wireless data. But I think the way the U.S. with competition goes, there's a lot more, I guess, competitive networks out there, and people that choose to use a network that's built on top of Chinese equipment. Yeah, I absolutely think that there's a security risk there.
Well, but I mean, okay, so let's pick apart a little bit of that, and I'm gonna hypothesize a couple of the things. Not to
in your hypothesis, are you going to potentially talk about Chinese nanochips that were embedded on circuit boards? Are you going to bring that up?
I'm gonna talk about.
Or is that a conspiracy theorist perspective?
That's the conspiracy theorist in you, Jeff.
Okay.
So look, right. Let's look at Huawei for an example, right? Huawei has been, from my days deep into the Air Force, right? We've always known, before it ever came out in public, that Huawei was backdoored by the Chinese, which was why you never saw a Huawei device on any U.S.
Almost sounds like you're agreeing with me.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, what I'm saying is I'm trying to put in perspective that there are researchers that are actively looking to basically debunk your pathetic conspiracy theory.
There we go.
So let me ask you this. If you are still with the Air Force and Huawei comes in and says, hey, we're going to rebuild your wireless network for you and it's half the price, would you buy it?
The Air Force would never sign off on that because of
Huawei. Wow. So it's not just a conspiracy theorist here. It's actually our government who doesn't trust them.
But that's my point, is that
if you were in charge of that decision,
if the government,
if you were in charge of that decision, would you say yes? It's going to save 50% on the overall bill.
He's triggered. I got him.
You could be a hero.
I got him.
You didn't get anything. You won't answer my question.
I am
because
trying to answer
you didn't.
I'm trying.
You just said the government would never do it. My question is, would you?
Would I? But I'm not making the decisions for all of the Air Force.
You live in the hypothetical world the entire rest of the conversation, and this is the one time you say, "Oh, well, but I'm not." That's not my role. I am not a purchaser for the Air Force.
Do I have the same level of intelligence that those buyers do?
Yeah.
Okay, then no, I'm not going to buy it. Of course not. I don't care how much cheaper it is.
Okay, so we raise the intelligence level up to a Neil Bridges level of intelligence. Would you buy it?
No. I wouldn't buy Huawei stuff because we know that it's been proven. It's come out and proven that it's been backdoored by the Chinese. It's been banned across all the U.S. not because it's made in China, but because it's known to be backdoored by the PLA. I'm sure that if somebody were to find these super secret nano microchips on 5G antennas that were made by the Chinese that were set there to backdoor Verizon's 5G antennas, you would hear them ban that technology as well. Like, you and I with our measly little iPhones aren't the only ones using these 5G antennas. The entire, secrecy of the government and, command tree and everything else that's inside of our organization uses the Verizon 5G antennas. Do you think that they're going to let the Chinese backdoor a 5G antenna just like, it's on Verizon's network, it's their problem, they can go deal with it?
So we're talking exactly the same side of the argument again.
I'm saying is that if they haven't come out and banned it yet, then there's no evidence that there's Chinese threat behind it.
They already did ban it.
They haven't. They haven't banned it in the U.S.
Huawei?
No, we're talking Huawei or 5G.
Huawei.
Well, duh. Huawei's banned. I'm talking 5G now. Keep up, Jeff.
For those of you listening,
5G is a technology. Huawei's a manufacturer of that technology.
Good job. I'm glad you did your homework.
Duh.
For those of you listening at home, I have not only changed into a referee shirt, but a tinfoil hat as well.
You need a whistle. We need something louder than Neil.
Oh, my God. just so you know, I'll be the same level as you when they go and post-edit this.
You're going to literally have half your words cut out when they post-edit this.
Adam, if you're listening, we're sorry.
Adam, Neil is not sorry. He's going to do it again.
At least we're calling our fantastic production editor by his real name this week, not Andy.
Andy. So I'll just say this. I don't think that there's any security concerns to be had with 5G. Right?
I do agree with that.
Yeah, Jeff agreed on stream. Done. End of conversation.
It's not the end of the conversation because that wasn't necessarily the discussion. The discussion was as you have Chinese overlap to 5G technology. Oh, yeah, that's Huawei. And that's exactly the point.
And if
what other Chinese 5G is there?
I'm just saying, like, there's no...
What other 5G is there that is Chinese built?
Which is why there's no 5G in America built with Huawei.
Wasn't that the conversation?
You were trying to say something about super nano microchips all over 5G.
Oh, no, that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the nanochips that came out like a year ago or a year and a half ago.
Were these Elon Musk's brain chips that you were firing up about? You want to talk about that?
You're baiting me again, and I'm just not going to take it.
I think Elon Musk is a genius.
Well, for those of you still listening
this stream has gone down fast.
Yeah. If you are interested in checking out some more organized versions of these podcasts, check out the IT Experts Network wherever you get your podcasts, or tune into the INE YouTube channel for new episodes every week.
I'm sorry, everybody, for Jeff's performance. I'll try to find a new not expert to be on the stream.
Nice. I might actually have more experience on 5G than you, dude.
Just because you've got it on your phone doesn't mean you have experience.
On that note, we'll be here next week with Kool-Aids and some Nikes, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.